And I want to say big respect to all the students that I see here with their cameras on. Almira, I see you. Crystal, I see you. Gabriel, I see you. And I also want to welcome Brother Carlos and Delmer, my two other conspirators this week. I was watching them on Love FM as they launched those two books back there, Root Lines and Imagination. It was so much fun. Big respect to the work that they do. It is incredible. I see Cadex clapping. Yes, let's give them a big hand for that. And I see Matthias Garrido. I'm told you're all the way in Uruguay or Paraguay. I don't want Uruguay with a U. Welcome, my brother. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. So I should say something, right? Typical teacher just likes to talk. I had a few slides, introductory slides. All right, let me show them. My students are used to this, so they're just rolling their eyes right now. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to share now. I have to always be saying what I'm doing because my brain is working overtime. All right. So this is the screen of the introduction. We can skip that because that's just the screen. I wanted to start with this image on the top. And it is an image, it's an assemblage done by my second form student a few months ago. In April, he submitted this, and he was inspired by Cadex Herrera. He was attending Cadex Herrera's Zoom that we had at SJC in January. His name is Kasman Gill. And I don't want to title the work because as a teacher, I love to title things, but I will title it today. It looks like a kind of Cabbage Patch Christ. Now, the power of this work speaks for itself, but I am in a state of reflection because Kasman, a few weeks ago, was shot. He was shot in the back of his neck, and he is still in the hospital on life support. It has become a national situation in the sense that his dad has had to go on television and plead to the nation to deal with the anguish that is happening on our streets. So I thought it was so important to post Kasman's last submission to me, and hopefully he recovers and can make some more art. I have a circle there that says glocal, because whenever I think art is an answer, I don't think local, nor do I think global. I think glocal, and that's just a word that just sounds good, fine. And I think like local spaces for learning and living. And what I wanted to open up with as my introduction, I was thinking about it earlier this morning, and then I changed my mind. I said, okay, let me talk about something else. I want to talk about Benke as a place, how I see it. 4 things: Postinia, Kobola, Cache, and Stone Tree. And then I will introduce Nalleli and Cadex. I just had to take the opportunity to put my 2 cents in. But I'll just show one slide. Benke to me is like this. It's like the inside of a conch shell, or like a, you know, what do you call it? You can either look like you're going down or it looks like you're coming up. It depends on what time of the day you're watching it. On the top left is an image for the entrance of Postinia. And my students who are here in the class, I will try to arrange a trip maybe next year when COVID allows. And Nalleli will, I am sure, welcome us, and we will go there. But it's in the middle of the bush, let me put it simply. And there are over 40 works of art, earthworks they're called. And artists have been coming from all over the world, placing works there for, I would say, 25 years. Big respect to the Ruiz brothers, especially Luis Ruiz, who is like the spearhead, the oracle of Postinia, so to speak. Of course, his brother David has been doing enormous work as well for community art and engagement in literature and all kinds of things, education. I mean, that is a presentation unto itself. But Benke is also the hub. Like you see how that man Bezos launched from some place in the middle of Texas, but he spent billions going into space for no good reason. Benke is a hub for the imagination. this image you see here, the Atlas of Belize, I'm sure some of you used it when you were in primary school. That was published in the early 1970s in Benke on a street called Elizabeth, maybe, but it's a hill. The street's name is actually named after a queen, but the hill is what's important. And since then, they have been publishing all kinds of books that school children have used, that they have published writers. And next year, Kobola turns 50. So that is something to celebrate. A place of cultural production that comes from out of Benke, but produces not just locally, but globally. Stone Tree Records. Some of you might have heard about Stone Tree. Stone Tree Records has been around for over 25 years. Ivan Duran, not so young anymore. He's my good brother. He and I are above 50. We won't say how much. But he has been championing the sound of Belize and the Palacios Watina. When he produced that 2 months after it was released, it became in the top 1,000 albums on the planet. And the Palacio, as many of you know, had traveled across the earth singing in a language that nobody recognized, except they recognized the sound of art. And then we have the Community of Artists for Cultural and Historical Endeavors, CASHE or CASH. I like to call it CASH because although Belize Bank stole your idea, Nalleli, they want to do this quick cash thing with their card, but cash was around from before cash, if you know what I mean. But you all don't produce the cash of paper, you produce the cash of ideas. This is powerful. And ideas that translate to the community, to people doing things, everyday things. And I saw your slides this morning, whether it's making tamales or a mural, it doesn't matter. It is making art together. To me, that is part of this circle, this conch shell, this spiral that goes in and out. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, but it keeps going. So big respect to Benke as a place. All right, let me introduce to you now why Nalleli, myself, and Cadex are involved in this thing. We were supposed to do a mural. That's beautiful that it hasn't been done. That's what's, to me, most fascinating. It is the anticipation of the mural that is so wonderful. Because now, Cadex and Nalleli, we have more people that can contribute to it. Three of us, I mean, we couldn't figure out something, yes, maybe half brilliant. But now that we have more people, it will be magical. We were prepared right up until 3 weeks ago to go to Benke, to this wall, to start to paint. But then the Delta arrived and we had a discussion with Cadex, and I said, look, I don't know what will be the situation, and I don't want to have a situation where we have a lot of people out there and be responsible. And, you know, it was a sensitive thing. So we made a decision. But I think there's somebody with there.
He wants that to be his side job. But he said that he'll earn a little bit of money from that. But he'll earn more money with his business that he'll do like programming with computers.
I'm supposed to be the control song. How do I do that now?
Okay, so you'd have to go to
all right, I just tried. I think I said
mute all.
Mute, including myself. That would be fantastic. All right. Can you hear me though? Almira, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, good. All right, so back to the program, as they say, regular programming. So the first picture on the top left, now I'm taking too much time. I'm going to wrap it up. First picture on the top left. Nalleli had already gotten the gallery painted ready for Cadex's work, because we were going to have an exhibit of Cadex's work in Benke and Image Factory and paint the wall. And we have Nalleli's young son right here and her husband preparing the measurements and everything. But anyway, that's how life works. It's beautiful. So today we can have a discussion. If any of you all have an idea as to what can go on this long wall, I don't think the city council or the town council has given permission for the whole wall. But if enough people write to the mayor, I am sure we can get a big portion of that wall, and we can come together maybe sometime in 2022 and do it on that wall. That would be beautiful. All right. Now let me introduce Nalleli. Are you there? I only see your mural. So I want to first, hello again, good to see you. I want to now introduce Nalleli, my collaborator in this project. I really respect the way she thinks, the way she organizes, the way she leads, the way she champions her community, the way she brings her family into the work of the community and the art. To me, I don't think she has a separation of these things. That's a powerful concept. So you have the floor, and I will bring up your slide. Welcome, Nalleli. You have to put your microphone. No, it's off. Talk now, I think it'll work.
Okay. Buenos dias from Western Belize, Benque Viejo. Mr. Yasser, thank you so much for your kind words. It's surely very motivating for the work that we do here in Benque. And separation is not an easy thing. It's a way of life here in Benque. Thank you so much for your kind words and the motivation that you're carrying on with everything that we do here in Benque. It gives me great sense of pride and joy to share the Benque story with you all. My name is Nalleli Trujillo Yacab. I am a proud mother of 3. And it's just so much excitement, and we have been building momentum since early January 2021 of this year, that we wanted to work on this mural project and bringing Cadex to his hometown, Benque Viejo. And thank you, Cadex, for also joining us here today, and everyone for giving us a special hour to talk about the arts, to talk about everything that we want to do and to carry on with our life in this engagement. Thank you so much for your time. Saturdays are really fascinating days, and every day is an adventure. So thank you for joining us on our adventure this morning. Again, it's so much pride and joy to have you here and to count with the support of Mr. Yasser, who is the pioneer of many great initiatives in the whole country of Belize and bringing so much power in the arts and culture. It's so pleasant to have been working with him and always having the positive vibes to keep everything going and looking at everything at a very much different perspective. Thank you so much. I want to share with you that Benque is celebrating its 20 years as a house of culture. We call it our bicentennial celebrations, and in honor of our celebration, we wanted to bring Cadex, and we couldn't do it alone. And we had the backbone of Mr. Yasser that made everything. But 3 weeks back, we had to think and just hold on to this great idea and continue to build momentum as we continue the engagement. And what better platform than having everyone here today. I wanted to share the story of Benque and how the House of Culture has been instituted here in our community. It brings much effort, resilience, and the vision of David Ruiz, who is a cultural ambassador in our community and the whole country of Belize. And we know him very much for his writings of Old Benque under the Yacab tree, and many other great initiatives in our community. We go back to 1992 with the formation of Yacab, which is the community of artists for Benque Viejo. And this is where the cultural movement to preserve the Maya Mestizo cultural identity in our community started in many forms. The government of Belize was looking into establishing houses of culture all throughout the country, and very resilient Cache jumped on board because it was going to be in San Jose, Socots. But since 1992 until 2000, Benque had been laying its foundation, and they vetted and they won this. And now we have the Benque House of Culture. So we're looking back into many years of work and the grassroots initiatives of a community that has always been supportive. There is a unity in everything that we do. Everybody always jumps into the support system and to bring in the spirit of voluntarism all together in many forms. We have solid partnerships throughout the year, well, before COVID, because now due to COVID, we have financial restraints and challenges. We are part of the Niche family since 2003, along with 7 other houses of culture. Throughout the year, we host arts programs. We host music, piano, guitar, free lessons for everyone without any age range classification. We are open to cultural events all year long. We're very well known for the Saddles tapestries of Good Friday. We host the Alboradas, which is the patron saint's day. We host the September celebrations, Dia de los Muertos, posadas, and we promote tradition through the vital compositions in our community through storytelling. We're also well known for uplifting and upkeeping the dying art of marimba music, where we engage many youths with youths who are at risk. And this is just a little snippet of what we have in our community. We have been representing our community throughout the world, in the US, in Central America and Asia, throughout our marimba, which gives us great pride. And as a local organization, we are never alone in our quest to safeguard and promote our culture. The community's dynamics and composition are very favorable by many acts of kindness, support, and not only financially, but with much love and motivation. I would also like to share with you that we are a very small space of 20 by 30 building, but our yard is ample. And we're looking into establishing a proposed additional support project by the Organization of American States, who will be granting us a 20 by 40 prefabricated building, which will give us more space for us to be able to host all these programs throughout the year. We believe that there is no better way to state that the art is an answer in a society that yearns to belong, grow, showcase, and nurture the skills and value of its people. We are honored to establish friendships all throughout the walks of life, and in many that believe that throughout art we can heal, grow, and continue developing and molding our young nation, Belize at Forte, for our children and the future generations to come. I invite you to always be the change that you wish to see, and the more you know of your past, the better prepared you are for your future. Thank you, and I hope that I encompassed much of what I wanted to share with you this morning. Try to engage and belong anywhere you are in your community. And throughout the greatness and the power of the arts, culture, history, let us continue promoting our heritage, which is rich, and it has all the vivacity that we can show everyone. Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with everyone and hosting you in Benque in 2022.
Yes, sir, you're muted.
Thank you, Mel. You always know when I'm talking because then I talk too much. Thank you. I was saying, Nalleli, that was a beautiful lesson. Perfectly framed. I got exactly what the Benque House of Culture, but more importantly, what the people have done by coming together. And obviously it is as a result of your leadership, and it goes all the way back. I should add, I took a note that you were formed in 1992, the 500th anniversary of the invasion of the Americas by the European powers. So that was a powerful year to start. So that, to me, that is why you have so much energy going, because you're uplifted by the ancestral spirit of constant reimagining of your community. That's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure the young students, I always call them young students because they are young. I'm so jealous, but they appreciate what you were saying. Gabriel, give me a thumbs up there, man. Did you appreciate that? Yeah, good respect, brother. Yes, let's give her a hand. That's beautiful. So I said, you know something? I have to introduce my brother Cadex. But how the hell you introduce a man like that? I mean, the guy is still young. You don't want to song like, blah, 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 blah. He did this and then he did that. Who cares? I mean, I care, Cadex, I care. But it's not, you can actually, here's what you do. If you really care about all the things he's done, you go to his Instagram. He's already posted 2,075 posts. So that would be a good task for tomorrow. Just go through that. I'm just joking. The point is, I want to introduce him by saying this. Welcome. To me, that's important. And I want to introduce him with 3 of his works. I call it Salt, People, and Paper. The first work you see on the wall is on the left, black and white, is of a famous Belizean comedian from Benke, Seferino Coleman. If you don't know him, Google him. But even more important, ask your grandmother or grandfather, and they will know. Seferino was like nobody else, an edition of one. But Cadex made this portrait of Seferino, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, Cadex, if I'm wrong, out of salt and pepper. Is that correct?
It's just salt on paper.
So then I'm correct. I had salt. When I looked at it, I said, oh, shucks, I hope it's not salt and pepper. So it's black paper with salt on top. Ah, that's nice, beautiful. So can you imagine that? You don't need materials as how we think of materials to make art. Salt, let's go with salt. And then the image in the middle, I am sure many of you might recognize it. It is the image that was painted by several artists from Minneapolis, Cadex being one of them, as a collective of George Floyd. And George Floyd became a major flashpoint, turning point for, in America, what they have as an ongoing issue with police brutality and violence on the state, violence on citizens. And George Floyd became a major figure that the world, not just the United States, the world rallied behind in cities all over the planet, led by the Black Lives Matter movement last year. And so I think that's Cadex on that ladder. I could be mistaken, but I think that's him. Kind of look like his hair from the back. All right, that's him. But then the third image, and I'll introduce my brother, I'll welcome my brother after this to give his presentation. The third image is fascinating to me because it's all paper and it looks like sculpture. It looks like painting. It looks like design. It looks like Instagram. It looks like all kinds of things meshed up into one. And it is probably nothing. Just when I say nothing, I mean everything. How you flip the switch in your mind. To me, that's what's happening here. Oh, primary colors. Yeah, it keeps going. So I'll talk. As you can see, I am a teacher. I talk way too much. So I will now stop sharing and invite my brother. Let's give him a hand. Welcome, Cadex.
All right, thank you so very much, Yasser. I just want to say that it's an honor and an incredible pleasure to be with all of you today, with my Belizean people and other guests from around the world. And also, I just want to say, it's great to be here celebrating with all of you the 40th year of independence for Belize. And of course, we're a young nation. We're still building. 40 years for any nation is still, we're youth. We're still in our growing stage, right? And we have, as a nation and as a people, so much to learn, so much to grow. And I think that right now, what we're doing as a community, as a society, culturally, educationally, are the seeds that we're planting right now to, hopefully in the future, see fruit, an amazing tree, right? With so much to offer the world. And so I want to thank Yasser and Nalleli and the Benke House of Culture for all of their efforts that they are doing to promote our culture, to promote our country, our people, our society, and the beauty that we have to offer, not only our own community, but the world. So thank you very, very much. And I'll begin with my presentation. So if I could, I will share my screen with you. Just give me one moment. Hold on one moment. All right, I'm having some, I can't see my slides. All right, just one moment. I gotta. I don't know why I'm not seeing my, do you guys see my screen at all? No? I'm gonna turn off my video in a few minutes, okay? So Yasser.
Sure. Well, while we wait for Cadex, I think this is a good time not to waste time because we're all busy people, and we had planned this for an hour. I think Cadex will talk for about 20 minutes, and then we have another 10 minutes for questions. But if you want to ask any question or make a comment right now about what's been said, that would be a good opportunity until Cadex is ready. You can just put on your microphone and talk. Adriana, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, just for note, sir, my camera on my laptop isn't working, so I had to put it on my phone.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, I wanted to point out on what Nalleli is doing, the whole wall in Benke. I love that idea. I love the idea of vandalizing walls. I think maybe an idea that you could probably do for it would be what we discussed last class with the people in South America that had their handprint on the walls, on the caves. I like that idea. If you would have people in the community put their handprints on the walls, I think that would be a good idea of showing conversion and friendship and being one with the community as a whole. Because I know it's very different here in the city compared to in Cayo.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I am writing what you're saying, so we are making a note of whatever is said, and then when we keep organizing, I will make sure we reach out to you and to make sure your hand is on that wall. Thank you, Adriana. Anybody else?
Sir.
Okay, so Cadex is ready. All right, let's turn it back over to Cadex if he's ready. He's getting ready to present. Good.
Okay, can you guys see my screen? Oops. All right, here we go. All right, can you see my screen? All right, I apologize for that. I thought I had everything set up, and of course, last minute things always don't work out as you plan. So again, thank you so much for inviting me to this wonderful discussion and presentation of what we're doing culturally and artistically. So Art is an Answer, following your creative path to discover meaning in community, education, art, and history. So first of all, I'd like to give a great big thank you to National Institute of Culture and History, NICH, and the Benque Viejo Town Council, and Habet for their generous support. And of course, the organizers of this event, HOC, the Benque Viejo House of Culture, and Imagination Factory. All right, so real quick. So my name is Cadex Herrera. I am a multidisciplinary artist. Through my work, I aim to bring awareness to humanitarian, social, and environmental injustices by championing my culture, history, people of color, immigrants, and marginalized peoples. I strive to create art that empowers the viewer as well as elevate the subjects and themes that I explore through my work. I am from Belize, born and raised. I immigrated to the United States when I was 19 years old. I studied at the College of Visual Arts and graduated with a bachelor's in communication design and a minor in photography, as well as I hold a master's in education from Grand Canyon University. I'm currently a digital media arts teacher at Creative Arts High School for the St. Paul Public School District, and an art educator for teen and adult learners for Film North Minnesota and the Walker Art Center, as well as other organizations. And here's my contact, cadexh@gmail.com. If you guys want to send me email or whatever, feel free to contact me. This is my website to see my work, www.cadexherrera.com, and my Instagram account at Cadex Herrera, where I have just tons of work that I've been posting for many years now. All right, so art is an answer, following your creative path to discover meaning in community, education, art, and history. So one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about or share with you is that idea that we can use art as a powerful tool to talk about justice, you know, bring voice to those who are voiceless. And one of the projects that I'm fond of because of the conversations that it sparked is this work that I did for, you know, to talk about human rights. As an immigrant myself to this country, the United States of America, I think it's important for us, Belize also being a nation that welcomes immigrants, and sometimes not always in a welcoming way, but still there's tons of people. And through my mother, I learned that it's so important to be welcoming and be understanding and be helpful. So I wanted to create these pieces to bring awareness to the immigrants' journey, and especially to the United States. And some years ago, when we had the Trump administration, there was so much anti-immigrant rhetoric going on that I thought, and then that I thought it was important to say something, you know. And then we heard about these little kids who died in their journey for a better life. And so I created this piece, the series, and I'll be sharing just 3 pieces from each series. Usually, depending on how much work I have, they're longer series. But just for the sake of time, I just decided to showcase 3 of each. So this is Wilmer Josue Ramirez Vasquez, 2-year-old from Guatemala. Guatemala, of course, being our neighbor country. And I wanted to give awareness. I wanted to bring awareness, you know, to whomever sees my work, that, you know, immigrants are not necessarily what you see on television. Usually we are depicted in such a negative way, a terrible way, and, you know, terrible words are used to describe us. But, you know, we're families, we're children, old, young, that are just trying to find a way out, right? Out of poverty, out of misery, out of oppression. And so I created this series. All right. And this young lady, Darlene, is from El Salvador. And Carlos from Guatemala. And as you can see, some of these folks, you know, are neighbors, you know, and they're all traveling, they're all moving. And as people, we are mobile, right? We're always moving. We have emigration even in our own country. I moved from Benque to Corozal, and from Corozal to Stan Creek. And we're always just searching for that opportunities and work. And so I wanted to bring attention to their cause, and also to bring conversation to it. In my work also, I try to honor people who have done great things for our country, for their own people, for their culture. And this is Cristina from Belize, an indigenous Mayan who fought for indigenous rights in our own country. And I think that it's important for us as artists, not only to paint beautiful images, but we can use our artwork to create a statement, right? To honor those people who are doing great work, and also to tell their stories as well through art. And this is Miriam Miranda, activist from Honduras. She's a Garifuna who also, you know, is fighting to bring justice and also to give rights to her people and her community as well. And this is Comandante Ramona. She's a guerrilla activist from Sotzil, Chiapas. And, you know, we also have to give honor, you know, those fighters. Also, if you notice that they're all female in this series, because we also, I feel it's so important, you know, being inspired by my mom and encouraged by my mother to be an artist. I have this special connection to, you know, strong women who are out there fighting every single day. And their fight is not only, you know, activism, but if we think about it in a micro sense, is that they're fighting for their families. They're out there working. They're out there struggling, making sure that, you know, their children survive and they move up in the world. So this series was also to honor all women, especially, you know, women of Latin and Central America, who I think are the true heroes of that daily fight that they face just to survive. In my work too, I try to make sure that I teach, and part of that is showcasing history, the history of Latin America, the history of Belize. This year was created to honor the accomplishment of Afro-Latin revolutionaries that fought for freedom to liberate their people and preserve their culture. And this is Alejo Beni, and it's my own interpretation of Alejo Beni. We really don't know exactly, you know, where he came, but I took facial features from different people from Africa, and I created this portrait of Alejo Beni, who established the first Garifuna settlement in Belize. And these are pastel on black paper. Gregoria Flores, human rights activist from Honduras, and she's a modern day activist. And then Marcos Sanchez Diaz, founder of Livingstone, Guatemala. And especially in Latin America, Spanish-speaking Latin America, there seems to be a taboo, or we try to hide sort of the Black culture, right? That makes a huge part of those populations, a huge part of those countries. And I think it's important to honor and preserve that history, right? And teach that history to everyone, to whomever is willing to listen, that no country is ever made by sort of the Europeans that came, but in reality, it's been created by the people, the indigenous people, the people that were brought there, and to create communities and societies. And so I think it's important to showcase that. Also, growing up, I understood that I didn't have those opportunities to deal with the idea of mental health. Nearly 450 million people worldwide are currently living with mental illness. Through my work and through this series, I aim to fight the stigma, educate and advocate to bring awareness and compassion, and make connection through art to support my friends, family, and community during this time of social distancing. This is a piece, this is a salt on paper, and it's called Be the Light You Wish to See in the World. Growing up, not only personally, but in my community, looking back, I realized that, you know, there was a need to talk about and to offer help and seek help for mental health issues. And it's something that is still taboo in our country. And I think it's important that we start having those conversations about how we can help, how we can support our family members, our people in our community with mental health issues. And a lot of the times, you know, law enforcement, police officers take advantage of folks like that on the street, you know, and I think that they're human beings and they deserve dignity and respect, as well as support from us. And a lot of the times we dismiss folks with mental health issues as just crazy or, figure it out yourself. And looking back on that, I realized that it's so important that we as a community, as a society, really start talking about mental health and how we can support our community members, our family members, and how they can, deal with what's going on with them internally, mentally. This is another piece called Take Care of Your Mind so it can take care of you. And this one is Donde hay vida hay esperanza. Culture and community. So this is show some quick slides of Salt and Paper, like Yasser mentioned. This is George Cadell Price, first Prime Minister of Belize. And so this man right here was the first Belizean I remember seeing, and first sort of famous person I remember seeing that was not a white person, was not a European, right? And Belize being a British colony, all of our information, all of our history growing up was based from their perspective. And this was the first time I saw someone that looked like that skin tone and sounded a little Belizean, right? And he was my first hero, and he truly cared. And I remember just seeing these photographs, right? And of course, these photographs are, part of quote unquote the propaganda of politics, right? But it inspired me so much. I remember holding him in such high esteem, and I still do. And I thought that I would create one of my salt pieces to honor him. And then also the idea of using salt, it comes from, growing up in Belize, not having a lot of opportunities or resources as an artist. I'm so happy to see that organizations like Benke House of Culture provides, free classes and resources and materials for students to be creative in all different ways, from art to music to dance and all the other sort of artistic branches that there are. And so this was also working with the idea that we can use any materials in our work to create art, right? We don't need expensive paints, we don't need expensive brushes, but we can create with what we have around. And I think that's one of the great things about being a Belizean is that the lack of resources develops that ingenuity in us to create, to improvise with what we have. And just growing up, you go to a mechanic and they don't have a part, so they would make one up, or watching the artists, the street artists that we have, just carve out of wood and stone and all of these other objects, and then create wonderful, beautiful pieces of artwork. So, what's the cheapest, most readily available resource that we have? And I thought, oh, that would be salt, right? And that didn't just come immediately, but it took a while to sort of come up with this idea. And yeah, I'm very happy with the results and how the piece works. And of course, this is David Ruiz Puga, author. And this is another piece I did. And David Ruiz, or Mr. Ruiz, was, these slides are out of order, but he's one of another person. He was not only an author, but he was my teacher in high school. And then also one of the people who made an art organization in Benke that I attended to. It was a workshop to learn how to paint with the arts maestro. Oh my gosh, his name just escaped me. Mike Mauricio. And so we used to paint on the first floor of Mr. Ruiz's house. And that's where I first got the opportunity to use oil paints. And I remember thinning them so much that they were like watercolors, right, instead of oil paint. But this man right here was, was an author. And I thought, wow, somebody from my hometown could be an author, because before him, you know, I remember hearing about Z. Edgel, and amazing author who wrote Becca Lamb and other such great books. She was still very removed from my reality, because, you know, she was from Belize City, and Belize City was such a, you know, far away and such an amazing place. And David Ruiz, or Mr. Ruiz was available. He was right there. He was part of, you know, he was in my town. I saw him every day. I saw him in school. So he's been a great inspiration to me, and I'm so happy to hear that, you know, he's continuing that great work. And I was mentioned earlier, Edison Ceferino Coleman. I remember hearing him on the radio and having such amazing time listening to him. He was one of the funniest guys. And again, that idea of someone from my hometown, Benque Viejo, you know, making it in a way, right? He was the most popular comedian on the radio, and I looked forward to hearing him on the radio every night, and he was just a blast. And then also when he would come to Benque, you know, he was like a huge celebrity. And I remember just catching a glimpse of him once, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's Mr. Ceferino right there, you know. And so great inspiration to me in the sense that, you know what, you can use your natural talents to do great things, right? And he was just a funny guy, you know, and very expressive and comfortable with who he was and his voice and his stories. And some of the great memories that I have was listening to him on the radio. All right, so I'm gonna quickly move to muralismo. And aside from my artwork that I do, I also work in murals. And this one is called Latinx Resilience. And it's a piece I created for CLUS, Comunidades Latinas Unidas en Servicio, here in the city of St. Paul. It is 5 feet by 10 feet. And in my work, I try to, especially in murals, because it's such a visual and public medium, I try to incorporate as many, as much symbolism and meaning as I can. So here is a representation of Latinos, right, from the Latin diaspora. And Latinos, we don't all look the same, right? We come in all shapes, colors, and forms. So I wanted to make sure that we're all represented. If you notice the background, we have the Sunantunich. As a Belizean, I always try to incorporate my culture and Belize in everything I can. And we have those beautiful, you know, sort of golden yellow clouds. And in front of those, we have the Maya ruins and sort of the city of St. Paul, sort of they're connecting. And then we have the people represented. They're all strong and proud. And they're standing on an island of Latin America. If you see, even though we're not an island, I wanted to make sure that that was presented. And then the flowers going up is called a verdolaga, which is a resilient plant that grows everywhere. It's a weed. And that's surrounded by the Mississippi River. And on the right side, we see barges that float up the Mississippi River. And on the left side, we have a plant called a cattail, which is also a very resilient plant. And then on the left side, right below the Maya ruins, the Sunantunich, you'll see a little mahogany growing, that idea of growth. This one was created for essential workers for the city of St. Paul, a workers union here in St. Paul. And it's just to honor, you know, the people that worked through the COVID, and nurses and farmers and grocery workers and all of those people that, you know, had to go to work to make the community survive. And as well as in Belize, you know, we had those folks that had to go to work. They couldn't stay home and sort of, you know, live through it, but they had to go and, you know, keep doing what they had to do to keep the community alive, to keep the country moving forward. This piece I created recently this summer is called the Wild Black Project. And it's a piece that's meant to open conversation about the history of racism in the United States of America. If you notice, there's two African-American children, and they have a target on their foreheads, which represents that the Black community in America has always been a target. And I collaborate a lot with this kinds of work because, you know, what happens to the Black community also happens to the Latino community, to the brown community, to the indigenous community in this country, as well as the immigrants, right? And so this piece was to bring conversation about the history of America and racism and how people of color are targets, and that you know, we're not really free because we're always sort of targeted by, you know, law enforcement for different reasons and in different places. And this piece is about 30 feet by 48 feet. And this is my most recent project. It's called First Person Plural, which means we. And we is the first word in the Constitution of the United States of America, you know, we the people. And I wanted to talk about, well, what does that really mean when they say we, right? Who are they including in that conversation? So I had the opportunity to, and this was done for the city of Eden Prairie here in Minnesota. And I did some interviews. I got to know people from all over the world. Right in the front is Juana Luna, and she is from Mexico, and then behind her is Mesashi, and she's from India, and then we had some people from Laos and from United Arab Emirates and Iceland and Mexico and other parts of Central America. And I'm trying to showcase through this work that we're not a monolith. We're people from all different parts of the world, and we all contribute to the communities that we live in, and that we should honor, you know, immigrants because they make communities work, and they're not what, you know, the political rhetoric says that we are. So I wanted to bring voice to that, and also showcase and make the immigrant visible. Like, this is who we are, this is what we look like, and we deserve your respect and dignity, and also to be honored. And so these are a few different pieces I did for George Floyd. This one is called Rest in Power in George Floyd, and it's on a little storefront in Minneapolis. And George Floyd is ascending, and he's breaking the upper right-hand corner of the plane, symbolically meaning that he's breaking the right wing, right? And the right wing is sort of the racist elements of the United States. And so that's what that represents. And this is a piece I did with a community organization. It's Together We Will Defeat Racism. El racismo lo venceremos juntos. And it was a group of artists that came together to sort of create this piece. I helped design it, but a lot of input was from everyone. So I can't claim that this was, you know, mine. This was like my piece exclusively. And then here's an example of me working on the George Floyd mural. So I actually are the person who designed the George Floyd mural, and then we had some other artists come and help us paint this body of work. And it was an incredibly emotional and incredibly crazy day. This mural was created in one day, and I was overwhelmed and surprised by the feedback and support, and just the impact that this piece had around in our community as well as around the world. And this was an image that I took pretty much the next day when I went to visit the mural. It was turned into a shrine. It was turned into a memorial place, a place where people could come and grieve. And that's one of the great things about public art. You know, it gives us a sense of place, a sense of community, history, can tell a story. And I think that this weekend or last week, I've been seeing some amazing murals being created by some amazing Belizean artists, and I was just blown away by the artistry, by the passion, by the patriotism of these artists, and I'm incredibly proud to see this and just, you know, filled with love and appreciation that we're doing this, right? We're starting to beautify and tell our stories on our walls, like our ancestors, the Mayans, who communicated through stelas and murals. So muralismo is not a new thing, right? It's how, you know, indigenous people and our ancestors, not only our ancestors, but the Egyptians and the Amazonians and the Mayans and Aztecs and all of these ancient cultures used to communicate, was through art on walls. And so it's great to see that there's this movement in Belize to sort of start putting our history, our culture, and make it visible, you know, to our community and bring life and color to those communities. My aspiration as an artist is that through my art, I can bring awareness and dialogue to a small fraction of the many social injustices that are part of our daily life. I believe that social consciousness and art can be tools to exact positive change, as well as inspire to create and make a difference in our local as well as our global community. I'd like to give a special thank you to Mr. Yasser Musa and Ms. Nalleli Trujillo for organizing and, you know, making this Zoom and meeting possible. So art is the answer. And we as artists should always try to pursue our passions. It doesn't have to be just painting and muralism, but whatever our creative gene is inside of us. We should give those resources, support our artists, and you know, use it to build community, to teach, just for the art's sake, and also to promote our own history. And again, thank you to the organizations that made this possible, and also to the organizers.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, my brother. That was really incredible. I love how you use that yellow because it was just shining like a sun all through the entire presentation. I really felt the energy of what you were saying. You delved into some very deep yet real and everyday lived experiences. And I'm sure my younger compatriots, younger Belizeans that are in this Zoom that we call students, but their youth is what's so powerful, that they can feel your energy and recognize that they too have inside of them this. So anyway, let me not preach. Let me say that there is 1 minute left in terms of the 11 o'clock hour that we have, but I'm sure Cadex could stay around for a few minutes. Cadex, is that?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, yeah, thank you. I know you're a busy man, we're all busy. So if some students or some guests want to leave now because, you know, they had scheduled their time, big respect for your hour that you came on behalf of Nalleli. We really appreciate you coming and joining us. And well, I am on Facebook. Nalleli's on Facebook. I'm not sure, but you can contact me. I don't know how to be contacted. But anyway, we figure out a way to contact us, and then we will participate. And surely with my students, I have another few months with them. We can figure out something together. But for those who are not in the class or who are just guests, if you want to participate in our 2022 vision that is being developed in progress, please feel free. So the floor is open for any questions.
Sir, I just wanted to say two things. First of all, it was really inspiring seeing both Belizeans using their art and what they're passionate about to bring social awareness to their community or to other communities. I think that's very powerful. And as a person who wants to do the same with a different type of art, it's really inspiring, and I hope one day I can do the same. And also another thing is that Mr. Cadex, as a Belizean, as an immigrant in America, being able to not, how to say, like shy away from your culture, because often when we immigrate to America, we some of us, how you would say, lose our way, or like if we made it in another country, often forget about our own. But it's really nice to see that you haven't forget about our country and that you're showcasing your talents and still representing us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brinley. Is that how you pronounce your name, Brinley?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you said, and absolutely, you know, represent 100%. Wherever you are, you know, anywhere in the world, I think it's so important to always let people know who you are, where you're from, and do that with pride. Because it doesn't matter, you know, where you grew up. I think it's important for people to understand that the places that you first experienced life are the ones that made you, right? They formed who you are as a human being. And you know, I'm always I never shy away from telling people who I am and where I'm from, because you know, Belize is what made me who I am today, made me into the artist that I am. Benque Viejo formed my ideas about art, my ideas about people, my idea of what it means to be an artist and an activist, you know, and how to speak not only for myself but for others. So please, you know, always be proud of who you are, and never shy away from, you know, from your roots.
Anybody else? Just go ahead, open your mic and make up.
Good morning, Melissa here.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say an idea for the mule. Like Mr. Cadex spoke about like the different ethnicity. So maybe that could be an idea for the wall itself, because like everybody knows that Belize is the melting pot. So we could do a little bit from each culture with the Mayans, the Indians, and so on. We could probably do like a special date, like Dia de los Muertos, the drummers, and like just different, like when people come in, like they could see like our whole variety of different cultures, like yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. You know, I think that one of the most undeveloped resources that we have in our country is ourselves. And that's one of the things I believe that we don't, the people in power don't spend enough time promoting, is our culture, the colors of our country, the people of our country. And it is time, you know, like I said, 40 years of being a nation, we're so young. And I think that if we take the opportunity right now to showcase all the diversity that we have in our country, all of the rich history that we have in our country, of the cultures and how we integrate with each other, and how we can live, you know, and be a part of different communities, and how we bring different cultures and how we celebrate each other as a people. And if we can sort of harness that, right? And I think that's one of our greatest potentials and greatest resources is the Belizean creativity and ingenuity and arts and culture. So absolutely, I think that as artists, we have to really start turning up the level on our culture, on our history, and our communities that we live in. And we can do that through the arts, and not just painting, but, you know, dance and music and sculpture and poetry and literature.
Maybe I can go next after the other Melissa's, but I agree with you. And actually, you touched on something that I wanted to bring up, that you had mentioned in your presentation about resources, that we don't need much resources to engage in art. And I think the idea of trying to first get people to want to do art, or inspire people to get into their artwork. And you said harnessing that talent. Yes, it is very important. And I think too, it's also important that we as educators provide that space for our youth to want to engage in art. And again, I do agree with you again with our resources being our human resources and things that we have around us to explore, to explore the art. So that is where I would want to come in and congratulate Yasser's team when it comes to pushing art and trying to think out of the box, because we have started a new a new era in which we're saying, hey, art is okay and art is healing and art can do so much more for you. So you just showed it to us. Thank you so much for that, for your presentation. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. I think well, I like what Melissa said just now. As your art is not only about humanity and human rights. You don't only touch on humanity and human rights, but you also the act of, or the idea of using something as cheap as salt. That in itself is an act of opening up art as a process in democracy, no? Because we tend to be intimidated a lot of times because art supplies are so expensive. We tend to keep out a lot of our population from participating in art because they tend to think that it's something only for the more wealthier persons in society that can afford the expensive art material. So I think the idea of opening up the conversation and saying, listen, any and pretty much every material from the cheapest salt you can use to do art is a statement in itself of encouraging acts of democracy in the education system.
Absolutely.
No?
Thank you for that, Carlos. Yes, I agree with you 100%. You know, we cannot be limited by the lack of, right? We as artists and as contributors to sort of the creative life of Belize, we have to take that step to step outside of what we believe art should be, right? Because we have our own way of expressing ourselves, and a lot of the times we don't do that because we feel that we have to use sort of the European standard of what art should be, right? Which is painting with expensive oils or using, you know, the best watercolors and the best brushes, and that is so limiting, and it cuts us off, right? And we're always trying to wait for us to be good at it, but you'll never be a good artist unless you practice and you start doing what you need to do to express yourself. And I always tell my students this, it's like we're all at different levels as artists. I'm still learning myself, you know, I don't consider myself a great artist by any means, and I still learn. I'm still sort of studying art and studying different artists, not only European artists, but also artists from my community and artists from Belize and Latin America. And we all, you know, we have to keep exploring new ways of expressing ourselves. And if we can find a different method to do that with, take for example, the student that Yasser was talking about earlier that found objects in his house, you know, use a doll, and he created a very powerful, striking piece, right? And that's what art is. The message is as important as the medium that you use, is as important as, you know, how expensive the quality of the medium that you're using. I think that to me personally, great art is something that makes you think, makes you reconsider, makes you reflect, right? Not only on the mediums, but on the message as well. So absolutely, if you're a creative person, if you're from Belize, look around you, see what you can do to create and start using those things. And don't get discouraged if you fail at first, right? Those art pieces didn't come together the first time I put them together. I really had to experiment with it until I got it right. And a lot of times we get discouraged by that because we think that we will just start a painting or start a piece of work and it'll be perfect. And that's not the way it works. And hopefully it's not supposed to work that way either, right? You're supposed to practice and learn through failure, and then you have to you know, should do it again and again until you feel comfortable with what you created. So my advice to anyone who's trying to, you know, who is an artist and working on creating art is that explore around you, use what you have available, and start making art.
Yes, definitely. I think a marriage of your approach with the Caches approach, where community meets cheap material, I think is one that the education the education system has a lot to learn from. Maybe marrying both of those approaches, no?
Yeah. Also, and then just let me quickly add too that we also need the support of organizations, of businesses to support the arts. And a lot of the times, you know, those two are separated, right? And we have to go out there and say, you know, the big tiendas and stores that are in our communities, hey, help us out with some paint. Do you have brushes? And I hopefully they understand the greater vision that arts and culture are important, and they should be a part of it by helping and supporting artists and supporting the organizations that support artists.
Awesome. Delmer, sorry, Carlos, you wanted to say something else?
No, I'm
yeah. I think we can have 2 more questions. I know Delmer wants to ask a question, and then if someone else wants to ask, and then we can wrap it up. Go ahead, Delmer.
Good morning, Cadex.
Good morning.
First of all, I want to say that what really fascinates me about your art is that there's always a very thoughtful story behind it. It's always provoking. It always makes you rethink a lot of things. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a mural project going on throughout the municipalities in Belize. I see a lot of people, or a lot of the municipalities, or all of them, I should say, creating different murals. And a lot of the arts try to depict the history, not only of the country, but also localized history of each community. Now, in the idea of rethinking, I mean, you're an artist, and I would just want to see your perspective. If you would be given the freedom to depict, precisely because you're in the USA, what Belize means in one piece of art, or probably a mural, how would you define Belize?
Thank you for that question, Delmer. How would I define Belize? Well, first of all, I have to say that Belize is just not one thing, right? And I think that's important for all of us to understand. We are a confluence of so many different things. We have our indigenous culture, we have Garifuna culture, we have immigrants that came to our country, like the Kuli and the Mennonites, and immigrants from other parts of the world. And so it's almost next to impossible to embody what that means in one thing, right? So as an artist, I would try to find an underlying story, right? Like what symbols, and then we could go directly to like the patriotic symbols and our national symbols, like the orchid and the toucan and all of those great things. And then we can also talk about the history of politics, right? But I think what would really, to me, as an artist, would be important, especially if we are talking about like individual places, is to honor the people that made those places, you know, those communities that we live in, the subject matters, right? For example, you know, the first alcalde of Benque Viejo del Carmen, which was a woman, and also honor the hard work that of Belizeans. A lot of the times, I saw a mural that I found really interesting, and you know, we can't discount our history, but it was the Belizean flag, and then on the other side was the British flag, right? And I said, well, that's wonderful, right? But we have been giving credit to the British for a long time, and which to some extent it's okay, but we need to move away from that. We need to start focusing on our country, on our people, on our history, and sort of let, you know, the colonizer because they have already told their history from their perspective, right? We need to tell the history from our perspective. And then also as an artist, we have to implement our own narrative, our own story, our own point of view in our work. So to answer your question, I think that there is no one thing that defined us, but it's a consortium of different things, you know, a group of different things. And if we could put them all in one piece, I think that that would be fantastic. But I think that at the end of the day, we should honor our history, our people, our struggles, right? And from our perspective.
Excellent. All right. So any other questions? If not, I think we have taken a lot of Cadex's time and his.
We're good. We're good.
But I want you to know, Cadex, that we really admire and respect that you are open to share with us, to be with us. That's very important to us. And I want you to know that we will continue the engagement. And I am confident that now that we've had this a deeper connection with this meeting of so many different people, that we will be able to provoke and make a mural that is telling the story of the people. And if it's in Benke, to start with that first alcalde woman that you mentioned. So you'll have to have some homework and do some research, but I'm sure Nalleli will help us with that.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to invite Nalleli if she had any last words, but before I sign off, I want to just thank everybody. And Nalleli, you have the last word, and then we'll end the meeting.
I think there is no greater responsibility than giving thanks to everyone. What is comments for the mural as well, for Adriana Leslie with the hands, and I think that brings the social cohesion that we in Belize should always be fostering and what we work for here in Benke. Thank you so much for everyone's input, and we look forward to hosting you here in Benke. Thank you, Cadex.
Thank you very much.
It was excellent. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank
for everything
you so much, everybody, for this amazing opportunity. I'm very thankful, and I honor all of you. Muchas gracias.
Bye-bye. Have a good Saturday, everybody. Have a good Saturday.
Ciao. You too.